Well, hi. I can hardly wait to see all these old friends and to make some new friends at the California Seth Conference 2021. It is such a thrill and an honor for us to be a part of this together and to be invited to talk to you about everyday life, Seth and everyday life. The Seth material is really the foundation of my intellectual history and my metaphysical history. It's not my first experience or my first exposure, but is my foundational worldview after being in the university, after living in the world in many parts of the world. It became and remains the most important source for understanding my life and mass events that I see happening around me every day. Now, I was born in World War II. My dad came back from the war and my parents christened me. And at that christening ceremony, I felt like a grown-up. I was 4 years old and I felt like an adult. They were giving me to God and I was committing to some purpose yet to unfold in my life. And I can remember today as clear as rain, as clear as if it happened yesterday, that I used that moment to decide I would be who I am for the reason that I am in this time, in this space, in this focused personality. There was another event that was really transformational. My parents lived in Japan. We were stationed in Japan. And at that time, everybody had to have their tonsils out because of the fear of polio. And I come out of surgery only speaking French. We were living in Japan. I'd never studied French. And my mother tells me the doctors were running around trying to find somebody in Misawa, Japan, who could speak French and get me through the recovery process. As soon as the anesthesia wore off, I had no recollection of the French. But 3 years later, my dad was stationed in France. I went to high school there. I graduated in France. I ended up eventually learning to speak French fluently, maybe with the help of my other selves. And I continue to work in it to this day. So, by the time I got around to the nature of personal reality and the individual and the nature of mass events, it was like, yeah. Like somebody else said in one of their intros, here's somebody who's talking what I've always believed, always known in some deep portion of the self. So I've had a very mainstream career. I taught university, worked as an academic administrator, worked as an interpreter, worked in Africa and Europe and the Caribbean, had a regular life, but always somewhere underneath, these questions kept popping up for me. How did that happen? Where does this information stored? How do these experiences get explained? It certainly didn't get explained in my methodology classes at BU, where we were flipping coins and talking about probabilities. I knew the probabilities was a much broader subject than anything I faced in graduate school. So while I worked, while I parented, while I was a caregiver, I kept paying attention to questions about the self and about this constant creation of the world and my own body. Two things happened. One, in 2015, I was diagnosed with cancer and told I had at the outset 2 months to live. Now, after a 33-year relationship, my partner died, was ill. I learned a lot about probabilities there and the physical body. Fell in love again 2 years later. And all of a sudden, I'm so thrilled with my life and I've got kids. It's like, well, if I were my own client, I'd be asking the question from a Sethian perspective, well, why is this showing up now? What am I supposed to do with this? Why now? I'm having too much fun. Well, what is it you're missing? What is it you're not paying attention to? So this has brought me home again. And every day I find myself asking the question, well, did you mean it? Did you mean it when you said I create my own reality? Did you mean it when you said I live in a safe universe? Even if the rest of the world is crazy, I live in a safe universe. I live in a safe body. I can trust my impulses. I can tell those doctors yes or no. I'm feeling this way. I'm feeling that way. And in some ways, I have the privilege and the responsibility to put my life, my very life, on the line 24/7 with the question, did you mean it? So I invite you to join me and we'll talk about this. It's not going to be a heady discussion. It's going to be a down, gritty discussion about bodies. So I hope you'll join me in that session. I have a website that I've had now for about 15 years. I have blog posts, published a book called 7 Seconds or Less, having to do with business applications of intuition. And when I left the university and while I was building UMS, I've been a professional intuitive. And so the book is about how you work with companies to use intuition. So take a look, enjoy, and I hope to see you soon. I can hardly wait.